Stoicism versus Stoic Masculinity. What real strength looks like. The quiet strength that shakes the world. Strength. The word itself stirs images in the mind. Some see the broad shoulders of a soldier standing at attention, others envision the enduring patience of a mother holding her family together, and still others think of the relentless endurance of someone who refuses to break when life's storms crash against them. But strength is not one thing. It is a layered concept, sometimes loud and commanding, sometimes silent and unshakable. In our modern age, two terms often swirl in conversations about strength: Stoicism and Stoic Masculinity. To some, they're interchangeable. To others, they're worlds apart. But what do they actually mean? And more importantly, what do they tell us about what real strength looks like? This discussion is more than a philosophical exercise. In a time when people confuse emotional suppression with emotional mastery, and when being strong is often reduced to posturing, the difference between Stoicism and Stoic Masculinity is crucial to understand. One is a philosophy, ancient yet timeless, rooted in reason, virtue, and self-mastery. The other is a modern cultural construct, sometimes inspired by Stoic philosophy, sometimes a misinterpretation of it, focused on ideals of manhood, resilience, and leadership. Over the next several hours, we will take a journey. A deep one. We'll explore where these concepts meet and where they diverge. We'll look at history, psychology, and real-world application. And along the way, we'll challenge assumptions about what it means to be strong. Not just for men, but for any human being who wants to live well. Because real strength is not a mask. It's not a performance. It's a way of being. The historical roots of Stoicism. To understand the discussion, we first need to travel back, over 2,000 years, to a painted porch in Athens. It was here, in the bustling heart of Greek philosophy, that Zeno of Citium began teaching what would later be called Stoicism. The name comes from the Stoa Poikile, the painted colonnade where Zeno gathered students. The times were chaotic. Empires rose and fell. Wars shook the Mediterranean world. Philosophers wrestled with questions of virtue, purpose, and the nature of reality. Into this intellectual ferment, Stoicism emerged, not as an escape from life's hardships, but as a way to face them with clarity and courage. The early Stoics, Zeno, Cleanthes, Chrysippus, taught that the key to a good life was living in harmony with nature, by which they meant living according to reason, the defining feature of human beings. Life would bring adversity, loss, and pain, but none of these could truly harm a virtuous soul. As Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, later put it, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For the Stoics, four virtues stood at the center of life. 1. Wisdom, understanding the world and our place in it. 2. Courage, facing fear and hardship with resolve. 3. Justice, giving each person their due and acting with fairness. 4. Temperance, mastering desires and impulses. These virtues applied equally to men and women, rich and poor, rulers and servants. Stoicism was not about toughness for toughness' sake. It was about moral excellence, the kind that no misfortune could touch. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence could serve as the heartbeat of Stoicism. What Stoicism is. Today, the word Stoic often conjures an image of someone who feels nothing, who shows no emotion, who endures suffering with a blank face. But the ancient Stoics would have found this definition incomplete, if not outright wrong. True Stoicism does not require the absence of feeling. Rather, it calls for the mastery of feeling. Anger may arise, but the Stoic does not let it dictate his actions. Fear may appear, but the Stoic does not run from the truth because of it. Joy is welcome, but it is not dependent on things beyond one's control. The Stoics divided life into two categories. What is within our control? Our thoughts, choices, actions. What is beyond our control? Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, the past, the inevitability of death. Happiness, they argued, comes from focusing on the first and accepting the second. When you anchor yourself in virtue, external misfortunes lose their power to ruin you. The misinterpretation of Stoic masculinity. When people hear Stoic masculinity, many imagine a man with no emotions, standing tall against the world, showing no pain, no joy, no vulnerability. This is where the misunderstanding begins. Ancient Stoicism was never about erasing emotions. It was about mastering them, understanding them, and ensuring they didn't dictate your actions. But somewhere along the way, society reshaped this into an image of a man who is emotionally absent. Let's be clear. Real Stoic masculinity does not mean detachment from life. It means engagement with life without being enslaved by its highs and lows. The misunderstanding happens because of two main reasons. 1. Surface-level understanding of Stoic philosophy. People often read a single quote, like Marcus Aurelius, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," and think it means you should be indifferent to everything. But the deeper reading shows that Stoicism teaches us to love what happens, *a more fatty *, to care deeply about virtue, and to contribute to the world. 2. Cultural masculinity myths. Many cultures equate manliness with silence, physical dominance, or emotional coldness. When combined with a shallow reading of Stoic thought, it creates a dangerous, incomplete version of what a Stoic man is supposed to be. The 4 Stoic virtues in masculinity. To understand what true strength looks like in a Stoic man, we must go back to the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism. 1. Wisdom, Sophia. A Stoic man seeks truth, not in arrogance, but in humility. Wisdom is the ability to see the world clearly, not clouded by ego or fear. It means questioning your own beliefs, seeking evidence, and being open to correction. In practice, wisdom means listening more than you speak, learning from failure without self-pity, making decisions based on reason, not impulse. Real masculinity here is not about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself. 2. Courage, Andrea. This is not the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. Courage in Stoic masculinity means standing for truth even when it's unpopular, protecting those who cannot protect themselves, and facing personal challenges without running away. But courage also exists in small, quiet acts, like admitting when you're wrong, apologizing sincerely, or having a difficult but necessary conversation. 3. Justice, Dikaiosyne. For a Stoic man, justice means fairness, not favoritism. It is the commitment to act rightly toward others, even when no one is watching. This is where many fake Stoics fail. They mistake self-reliance for selfishness. True Stoic masculinity recognizes that the world is an interconnected whole, and that your actions must contribute to the good of the whole. 4. Temperance, Sophrosyne. Temperance is the art of balance. In masculinity, it means knowing when to advance and when to retreat, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to forgive. It's easy to act in excess, whether it's in anger, ambition, or even generosity. True strength lies in self-control. Modern Stoic masculinity versus toxic masculinity. We must draw a clear line here. Toxic masculinity says, never cry, never feel, never show weakness. Stoic masculinity says, feel deeply, but don't let feelings control you. One represses emotion. The other understands emotion. One fears vulnerability. The other accepts it, but channels it constructively. The dangerous myth is that a real man is untouched by pain. But the reality is, pain shapes us. Stoicism doesn't erase pain. It teaches us how to face it without losing ourselves. Emotional mastery, the core of strength. One of the most misunderstood aspects of strength, both in Stoicism and in modern interpretations of masculinity, is the role of emotions. Many people assume that a Stoic man never feels emotions at all, that he is somehow immune to fear, grief, anger, or love. But this is a distortion. The Stoics never taught emotional suppression. They taught emotional mastery. Emotional mastery means that you feel deeply, but you do not allow those feelings to override your judgment or dictate your actions in harmful ways. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This doesn't mean that what happens is irrelevant. It means that the power to respond with wisdom is always in your hands. In the ancient Roman world, Marcus Aurelius faced immense personal grief. He buried many of his children while still ruling as emperor during wars and plagues. It would have been entirely human for him to collapse under the weight of despair. But Marcus understood that his role demanded steadiness. He didn't pretend his losses didn't hurt. His meditations are full of sorrow and reflection, but he chose not to let grief make him unjust, bitter, or careless in his duties. Modern Stoic masculinity often misinterprets this. It tells men that tears are weakness, that vulnerability makes them less masculine. But in truth, Stoicism would say that vulnerability is not the problem. It is how you navigate it that determines your strength. To refuse to acknowledge pain is not courage, it is fear of confronting it. And fear, when unacknowledged, silently controls you. True Stoic strength means you could sit with your sadness, understand it, and yet still choose your next action with clarity. It means that anger may flare inside you, but you will not allow it to poison your decisions. It means you love without clinging, and you let go without hatred. In this light, the strongest man is not the one who feels nothing. It is the one who feels everything, yet remains master of himself. The discipline of action. Walking the talk. It's easy to talk about values. It's much harder to live them. Both Stoicism and Stoic masculinity agree on this. Character is revealed in what you do, not what you say. For the Stoics, philosophy was never meant to be an academic exercise. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations to publish. He wrote them as private reminders of how to behave when the world tested him. Epictetus taught his students that if someone asked what Stoicism was, you shouldn't explain it with words, you should demonstrate it with your life. This emphasis on action means that all the intellectual understanding of virtue is useless if you don't practice it daily. You can read about patience, but unless you hold your temper when you're insulted, you don't have patience. You can talk about self-control, but unless you refuse the easy temptation that compromises your integrity, you don't possess self-control. Stoic masculinity adopts this same principle, but channels it through the cultural expectations placed on men, often in physical, relational, or leadership contexts. The ideal is that a man not only knows his principles but embodies them consistently. At work, in his family, in the way he treats strangers. This is where the two paths intersect powerfully. A Stoic focuses on living in accordance with reason and virtue, regardless of gender. A stoically masculine man adds the layer of cultural role modeling, becoming a steady anchor in a storm, the kind of person whose quiet strength inspires confidence in those around him. Practical ways to apply this today. 1. Set your standards in writing. Write down your personal code, inspired by the Stoic virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. This becomes your compass. 2. Practice in small moments. It's not just the big challenges that define you. The way you handle being cut off in traffic or spoken to rudely is training for greater tests. 3. Lead by quiet example. Don't tell people you're disciplined. Let them notice. Don't announce your patience. Display it. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's not only a Stoic principle, it's the very heart of authentic Stoic masculinity. The role of purpose in real strength. One of the most overlooked aspects of both Stoicism and Stoic masculinity is purpose. Without purpose, all strength, whether emotional, physical, or mental, becomes scattered, inconsistent, and often self-destructive. For the Stoics, purpose was not an abstract dream or a motivational slogan. It was rooted in the idea of virtue, living in alignment with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. To live without purpose, they believed, was to drift aimlessly, constantly reacting to life instead of shaping it. This is where many men today lose their footing. They work out, they hustle, they grind, but they have no why. They chase validation, status, or possessions, mistaking these fleeting trophies for a meaningful existence. A man with purpose is like a ship with a fixed course. Storms may slow him, waves may toss him, but he still knows where he's going. Purpose gives weight to discipline. It fuels patience. It sharpens focus. In Stoic masculinity, purpose is not self-indulgent. It's not about doing whatever makes you happy. It's about dedicating yourself to something greater than your own comfort. It could be raising a family with integrity, building a business that serves others, mentoring the next generation, or defending a principle you believe in. Purpose also acts as a compass when life becomes unbearable. Marcus Aurelius faced invasions, plagues, betrayal, and the death of loved ones. But because his purpose was clear, to rule justly, to embody virtue, to serve Rome, he could endure what would crush the average man. Without purpose, every hardship feels meaningless. With purpose, even suffering becomes a form of training. This is why Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Real strength, then, isn't just the ability to endure pain, it's the ability to endure it for a reason. It's waking up each day knowing that your struggles are not wasted but are building towards something timeless. If Stoicism teaches you to remain unmoved by fortune or misfortune, purpose teaches you where to walk when the ground is steady. And when combined, they create a man who cannot be easily swayed by life's shifting tides, a man whose strength comes not from what he resists, but from what he serves. Building resilience through adversity. When we talk about real strength, whether through Stoicism or Stoic masculinity, resilience is at the heart of it. Strength is not built in comfort, it is forged in discomfort, in hardship, and in the willingness to stand firm when the ground beneath you shakes. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, during his reign as Roman emperor, endured wars, plagues, political betrayals, and personal tragedies, including the loss of multiple children. Yet, his writings never crumble into self-pity. Instead, they return again and again to the same themes: the impermanence of all things, the choice to act with virtue, and the acceptance of what is beyond our control. Modern masculinity often celebrates resilience too, but the difference is in how that resilience is expressed. Stoic resilience is not about flexing unbroken pride or never admitting pain. It's about acknowledging pain without letting it dictate your actions. It's about enduring the storm while keeping your moral compass steady. Resilience is a skill, not a personality trait. The Stoics believed it is cultivated through practice. They deliberately expose themselves to discomfort, whether through physical discipline, mental exercises, or voluntary hardship, so that when life inevitably threw challenges their way, they would be prepared. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, taught that every misfortune is an opportunity to practice virtue. If you lose wealth, practice detachment. If insulted, practice patience. If injured, practice endurance. This perspective reframes adversity not as something that weakens us, but as the very means by which we grow stronger. In Stoic masculinity, the emphasis shifts slightly. It often incorporates the traditional masculine archetype of the protector, the builder, and the one who bears responsibility under weight. Yet, in its healthiest form, it does not glorify suffering for its own sake. It uses suffering as a training ground for wisdom and self-mastery. A man, or indeed anyone, truly strong in the Stoic sense does not seek to be untouched by life's blows. Rather, they expect them, welcome them as inevitable, and use them as stepping stones to greater strength. Resilience, in this light, is not the absence of hardship. It is the calm certainty that you can face hardship without losing yourself. The road ahead, living real strength in a modern world. We've journeyed through the depths of Stoicism and Stoic masculinity, peeling away the layers of cultural stereotypes, historical misconceptions, and shallow modern interpretations. Now, it's time to turn all of this philosophy into something alive, something you can walk with every single day. Because here's the truth. Philosophy isn't meant to be a book on a shelf or a quote on your Instagram feed. It's meant to shape your choices, sharpen your mind, and guide your heart. So how do we live this in the here and now? 1. Anchor yourself in principles, not moods. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The modern world is full of shifting moods, online outrage, political swings, public opinions that change with the wind. If you build your identity around moods, you will always be unstable. But if you anchor yourself to principles, honesty, justice, courage, temperance, you become steady. You stop being swayed by insults or praise. You stop chasing approval. 2. Redefine masculinity away from ego. The kind of masculinity Stoicism encourages is selfless, not selfish. It's about protecting, providing, and serving without needing recognition. It's not about how loud you can be, but how calm you can remain under fire. Not how much you can take from the world, but how much good you can give back without keeping score. This is the difference between posturing strength and being strong. 3. Control your inner narrator. Your mind is constantly telling you stories. People are against me. This is unfair. I can't do this. Stoic training means taking control of that inner narrator. The facts may be the same, but your interpretation can change everything. Instead of, "This is unfair," you might say, "This is my opportunity to practice resilience." Instead of, "I can't do this," you say, "I don't know how yet, but I can learn." This shift is subtle, but it's the difference between self-pity and self-mastery. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. The ancient Stoics sometimes slept on hard floors, walked in the cold, or skipped meals, not because they hated comfort, but because they didn't want to be ruled by it. In the modern world, this might mean taking cold showers, fasting occasionally, doing hard physical exercise without music or distractions, sitting with boredom without reaching for your phone. If you can remain calm and content in discomfort, you've gained a rare form of power. You've made yourself harder to break. 5. Choose action over image. Seneca warned about men who spend their lives seeming rather than being. Social media pushes us toward image, toward curating how others see us. But Stoic masculinity calls us back to real action. Don't post about generosity. Be generous. Don't post about discipline. Live disciplined. Don't post about being alpha. Protect, provide, and lead without needing applause. 6. Accept the uncontrollable, own the controllable. The most liberating Stoic lesson is this. There's an entire universe of things you will never control. Other people's choices, the past, the future, luck, accidents, death. And there's a much smaller universe of things you can control. Your judgments, your actions, your effort, your attitude. The strong man doesn't waste his life wrestling with the first universe. He masters the second. 7. Leave a legacy of character. Your job title, your bank account, your physical strength, all of it will fade. What will remain is the effect you had on other lives. Ask yourself daily, did I make someone's life better today? Did I stand for something worth standing for? If my son or daughter watched everything I did today, would they learn how to live well? This is what real strength looks like, not in a statue, but in a life lived deliberately. Stoicism and Stoic masculinity aren't about returning to some imagined past or pretending emotions don't exist. They are about living fully in the present, with wisdom as your compass and virtue as your shield. In a world that rewards noise, choose silence and depth. In a world obsessed with winning, choose integrity over shortcuts. In a world that measures strength by dominance, Measure it by self-mastery. And remember, the true Stoic man isn't the one who fears nothing. He's the one who feels everything, and remains unmoved by what does not matter.